Hi everyone, it's Chenzo from Reality Art Pod, and I love Big Brother. This is one of my favorite shows. And I couldn't help but make this video because while the show in itself is great, the production team behind it is an absolute mess. I normally wouldn't say something, but season 27 is, in my opinion, the biggest fumble they've made so far. And this got me thinking about all the production fumbles of all time. So I'm going to try to figure out how we got here and who are the biggest victims of production's messiness. This is pretty much an organized rant, so feel free to agree or disagree with me in the comments. Season after season, the worst part of the show has been decisions made by production. And there's really one person to blame, Allison Grodner, the granola-eating menace who came to the height of her power in Big Brother 8 when Arnold Shapiro left the show. Some of the best seasons happened before she took over. Great casts, great casting twists, and for the most part, the game happened in a straightforward way. From BB8 on, the show starts incorporating more twists that impact the game, citing expect the unexpected, packaging these twists as a thing to please us, but in truth, they're either ways for Allison to push her favorites to the top or to clean up her own messes. So let's look at some of these receipts. America's player in Big Brother 8, a twist where one player was doing America's bidding, was a way for her to get her paws on the game, giving Eric, America's player, tasks, making it like it was America's choice, when a lot of the options for us to pick from were very leading. For example, asking America, which house guest should Eric try to kiss? When there's already a budding flirtmance with his house guest Jessica, so of course, we would vote for Eric to kiss Jessica, and then he had to try to kiss her. On Big Brother 9, they did a completely new format, pairing players into couples and evicting them as couples. Fans hated this twist, and they did away with it. I mentioned these early attempts. I feel like during these two seasons, she's dipping her toe into the water, figuring out what she can get away with. Big Brother 10 is regarded as one of the best seasons of the show. Fans loved it because it was marketed as back to basics. Ah yes, back to basics, meaning Allison taking a brief break from being herself for one season and letting the game play out as it should. This season was 71 days with 13 house guests, one double eviction. It had a perfect pace, minimal twists, and it never felt boring. You would think the producers would lean back into this, right? Wrong. Big Brother 11 takes a heel turn, back into heavy hand from production. Sure, there was the clicks twist that I actually don't mind, but Allison gets heavy-handed with the coup d'etat. America's sweethearts Jeff and Jordan were in trouble, so Allison decided to let America vote to give an insane power to the player of their choice. Of course we're gonna choose Jeff. So while she gives us a choice, she's really handing a power to Jeff that would flip the game against Jesse, the one returnee. How this played out with Shima, one of Jesse's allies was HOH, and Jeff had to use his power because it was expiring, so he dethroned Shima and nominates her allies Jesse and Natalie, leading to Jesse being evicted. Two players were especially screwed by this. Firstly, of course, Jesse, who was evicted this week. Now, as fans, we didn't like Jesse, but it's worth noting that he did take the time out of his life to come back to the show, and he was playing a great game. He was in the majority alliance, had won 2 HOHs, and then gets sniped out of the game week 5, becoming the first member of the jury without a chance to save himself. So he just wasted his time coming here. And Shima, the HOH, whose power was completely stripped from her in a situation that was not very fair, she has a meltdown and throws her mic in the hot tub in protest against production and is removed from the game. The more time goes on, the more I see where Shima was coming from. I was rooting for her. She was a great player, and her HOH was ruined by some production bullshit. Jordan would go on to win the season, but had it not been from this heavy-handedness from production, she definitely wouldn't have. Worth noting that this season introduced Pandora's box, which seemed innocent enough at the time. Certain players would be offered temptations that would bring either good things to them and bad things to the house, or vice versa, but Pandora's box this season didn't really impact the game. But in future seasons, production would introduce Pandora's box at convenient, unpredictable times, really whenever they wanted to influence things or save a player that they liked. Big Brother 12's big twist was the Saboteur, a player whose sole mission was to cause havoc in the game. Production chose Annie to be the Saboteur, and there's no doubt they would have given America leading choices to impact the game, but the players voted Annie out first that season, a case where production lost power over the show, but they randomly bring back Pandora's box along the way, offering Brigade member Matt a diamond power veto in week 5 in exchange for releasing a new Saboteur into the game, just to revive their failed twist. Reagan was selected as the new Saboteur, which was unmemorable and not worth doing. The following week, Brendan wins HOH, and 2 Brigade members, Matt and Lane, end up on the block. Matt, of course, uses the diamond power veto on himself, and Officer Kathy was sent back to the station. Really convenient to me that this power was given to a Brigade member, and then a Brigade member would go on to win the season. Big Brother 13 started off great, with players being in duos. There were 6 returning players. The returnees started off with a numbers disadvantage, and needed to play the game to keep themselves around. This season started off pretty fair in my opinion, though Pandora's box returns at the final 6. A week when Portia was HOH, the show puts players in duos, and when Rachel wins the POV, it meant both Rachel and Jordan were safe. This was clearly interference to give the returnees a chance to both be safe, mostly protecting production darling Jordan. They loved Jordan at the time. I feel they really wanted Jordan to be a 2-time winner. The only available duo went on the block, Shelly and Adam, and Shelly was evicted, another victim of production. Rachel's win in BB BB13 is knocked by a lot of people due to the level of production interference, though I always felt like the show really wanted Jordan to win. They never really liked Rachel that much and treat her like a joke. Rachel and Jesse were both consistently chosen to be Pandora's box punishments, and their efforts to save Jordan kind of benefited Rachel because it kept Jordan around a bit longer as an ally in a vote. The show gets a lot of backlash about Pandora's box at the time. Pandora's box would go on to return for one more season in BB14, but based on the fan reaction from BB13, it wouldn't impact the game as much. Listing some other examples of favoritism and interference, in BB14, the decision to save Frank, who production obviously loved, canceling his eviction with the excuse that the coaches were entering the game. He didn't have to be safe for this to happen. In BB15, twists were designed to help Alyssa, and when the season wasn't going well, with players being controversial, they changed the twist to give America the power to nominate. We loved this interference because it benefited the players that we liked, but it was still interference, and they didn't do it to help us. They did it to save themselves from bad PR. And Helen was pushed, another victim. In BB16, Frankie Grande won HOH in week 11, and Cody and Victoria were on the block. Randomly, a convenient twist reset the week, meaning Frankie's HOH was a complete wash, and he was evicted the following week. Another victim. Big Brother 19 starts off with the show offering the house a temptation of money in exchange for Paul coming back into the game. Of course, someone took it. There was no way they weren't going to, and if they hadn't, they still would have found a way to get Paul into the house. And they gave Paul so many advantages. Friendship bracelets where Paul could make people safe and make allies, a pendant of protection that they could use basically to be safe for 3 weeks. It's no surprise that Paul ran that season and made it to Final 2. I would say that from BB19 on, I don't feel there's been as much blatant production interference on the show, but favoritism continues. I feel there was clear favoritism from production to Tyler and Mickey on season 20 and 21. Following COVID, I think they have other problems. BB22 is an absolute mess from top to bottom, premiering late in August, which I understand, but the whole thing just felt heartless and started off with an HOH competition that favored the men, as the men had an easier puzzle in the first HOH competition, which to me started the whole season off on the wrong foot. Cody wins that HOH and sets himself up to win this season. I knew even during the premiere how that season was going to go, because let's just say Allison Grodner likes certain men, and it's very clear to me that she pulls strings behind the scenes in ways that we don't even see, and I would say that she's sexist. With that said, after 22, there have been major changes to the show. Season 23 benefited from the introduction of the diversity mandate, which was a positive change, but not the decision of the people in question today. And while I still think there's favoritism happening in the background, I think after COVID, I've noticed the show has become more of a disorganized mess. Season 24 saw the show trying something new with the Dire Fest twist, where half the house was inside, half outside, which was a mess. Fans hated it, but also the live feeds were constantly off because house guest Kyle was making racially biased comments, so the feeds go down, and we didn't know what was happening. The show didn't care about us during this time. Personally, I'm an adult. If someone is saying something controversial, I would like to see it and make my own decision, but this incident showed me that they wanted the viewer not to see things that were happening, sheerly to protect themselves, not us. And they got a little too into blocking those feeds. Back in the day, they'd block feeds if someone was singing or talking about someone who didn't sign a release, but now they'll get blocked for talking about anything on a long list production just doesn't want us to hear. And why is that? Is it because there are so many things in this long list of evidence that I'm providing today that the people in charge know that they are terrible at their jobs and simply want to keep them? So now not only do they block the feeds, they've taken away flashbacks, so we can't go back and get the receipts if we didn't catch them, but we do catch the receipts. Someone out there in the world is recording these feeds at all times, even when they're sleeping. So eventually we might just lose these feeds. Not only did Dire Fest affect the feeds, but it set a trend of production doing something halfway through the season that just ruins their own show. BB25 saw Survivor legend Suri join the cast, giving Suri an advantage of having her son on the cast, and plenty of house guests that were fans of hers. But then came Zombie Week, a season that had so much potential blown up in a span of 3 weeks where basically no one went home. Why did they do this? Because the season was way too long, 100 days, and they ejected a player at week 1 and still went through with the first eviction, which threw off their schedule. I did the math at the time. They had enough time this season to have a 20-person cast. So why not just cast the amount of people needed to fit your schedule? Any competent person would think with this logic. I'm sure we would love a nice, big, juicy, plump 20-person cast. They could have added 3 more survivors. Who cares? Go nuts. Instead, we get a dragged on season. And why? Not to entertain us, but to show us commercials for medicine. Lots and lots of commercials for medicine. BB26, great season. The show falls ass backwards onto the AI arena twist that we end up liking, even though I feel like they didn't think we would like it. Then they decide to send the players to Janky World, forcing them to live outside. The players were miserable all week, and their happiness levels never really returned, which killed the momentum of a great season. I know this was a lot of rambling, but I'm trying to map out how we got here to season 27, where they cast 17 players, the 17th being Queen Rachel Riley, who, as I said earlier, the producers seem to view as a clown, who they've sent into multiple houses as a Pandora's box, and even here, they sent her in as a punishment from the mastermind. And they put her on a cast with all newbies. Now, we've seen seasons with one returning player. Remember when they gave Paul all those advantages to help Paul succeed? Remember when they gave Suri her own son? They give Rachel 1 week of safety and the power to give one other person safety. Starting a safety chain where 4 players were safe that week, why not at least let Rachel choose all 4? She's set at such a great disadvantage. Add on to that, basically nobody on this cast knew who Rachel was, outside of the fact that she's a Pandora's box punishment on season seasons that they watched. No one had watched her season. They give the players DVDs of seasons to watch and sequester. Why not give them season 12 and 13? And at least cast one person who's a Rachel stan. So Rachel's out here fighting for her life for 8 damn weeks, busting her ass. She makes it to jury without being nominated. And then there's this white locust twist. And that should be copyright infringement. They would never let the players call their alliance a branded name. Yet they're out here ripping off White Lotus. If I were Mike White, I would say take my name off the shit. So in the White Locust, they play one little game, Rachel loses, and she's eliminated from the season. No nominations, no votes. I would put Rachel into a bucket with Jesse. They don't respect their time, just like Jesse. She was playing a good game in an alliance and becomes the victim of production. And she won't be the last. For any future returning player, if they ask you to join a season with all rookies, say absolutely the F not. Why are they doing this new twist? Well, simply because the show is a disorganized mess. Remember when BB25 had way too many days and not enough players? Well, this season has way too many players and not enough days. The producers have backed themselves into a corner where there's 3 weeks left and 9 house guests. And whose fault is that? Theirs. And who has to suffer? Us and the house guests. And since we liked the AI arena, they've decided to keep the blockbuster going well past the jury, which now we don't like. And the mastermind will be back for potentially more random eliminations. The players are exhausted and miserable. These people are overworked and underpaid. Why do the producers need to make these people suffer for no reason? We don't enjoy it when they suffer. In fact, they continue to make players have-nots despite never including the have-nots on the show after the premiere, suffering for literally no reason. So they're just throwing people out of the house now. The players feel like they're on the challenge. Viewers are canceling their Paramount Plus subscriptions. Former players, beloved fan favorites, are speaking out against the show, Janelle and Dan. And I know I discussed a lot in this video, but I feel like over time, all of these things have left the showrunners feeling like they can basically do whatever they want, whenever they want, either for their personal pleasure or to cover up their own mistakes. Again, I love Big Brother, but I feel like it gets to a point. As a fan, I want the people in production to also be fans of the show. I want to feel like they understand what we want to see and create that from the beginning. I don't like feeling like the people who are in charge of a show that goes on for 3 months are winging it. I want to feel like they understand our needs and create that from the beginning. At this point, after 25 years, you should know. You should also know in June your schedule for the entire summer. Truly, are there no meetings? Is there nobody in the meeting room when they go over the schedule who's comfortable raising their hand and saying it doesn't make sense to go into the final month with 10 players? In summary, I trace all of these issues back to the production of the show and have noted that these issues connect with Allison Grodner taking control of the production. As much as people say they're canceling their subscriptions and won't be watching, we will continue to consume this content. And they will continue to run this program in a way that doesn't care about us. That doesn't mean it's okay. It's my opinion that a change in showrunners would make this show better. Thank you and good night.